Hello, my guys and girls. I know and trust, as always, that you guys are doing great, that you are winning at whatever it is that is on your path right now. Something I want to touch on that has been made so clear to me recently, almost on a new level, I want to say. Something that's really incredible, just about the workings of God, how God does what He does, how He is this faithful Father. And I actually had a conversation just today where I realized in many of the testimonies that I share, and if I just listen to the testimonies of people, going back to, if you look at the way God does things, and I often say to people, it's just, I call it, it's too stupid to make up. Because there is no way in many times and places and spaces where whatever happens, whatever the next steps are, whatever the next plans are, whatever we feel God shows us to do, can sometimes be some of the weirdest stuff that doesn't make any sense. I think I spoke on how Jesus said, if you lose your life for His sake, you will gain it. But if you want to keep your life, you lose it. It's opposite. It doesn't make sense. But then recently I realized when it comes to testimonies that we have, it gets to such a space all the time where it was literally impossible for me to say that it was I that did it, that I had pretty much anything to do with it, that it was God in the end of the day. No question, no doubt about it. And when you look at, and God recently lifted up Gideon for me in that front, is when you look at Gideon's story after, it was actually Jerubbaal at the time, but when Gideon was elected by the Lord to go and gather his army, firstly, the way that he handled with the fleece, putting the fleece outside to ask God for these signs and say, Lord, if you really are picking me, make the ground dry and the fleece wet, and then one more day to keep the fleece dry and make the ground wet, How it's impossible for us as a man to do that. But when he gathered his army and he went to the last little section of the final ones that God elected, the instruction that God gave Gideon was, out of the men that are left, Gideon, when we are down by the water and the men drink the water, whoever laps water like a dog, those are the ones you keep. Those are the ones that you keep. Those are the ones that stay. Those are the ones that I've chosen. Those are the ones that are going to battle with you. And it ended up being 300. But that falls to me in that category that it's crazy. It's one of the craziest instructions. Like, okay, yeah, sure, Lord, because people drink water like a dog, and there were 300 of them. How insane is it that God also places it in the hearts of the right people at that time, on your path, during your process, during your walk, during whatever things that you're facing and walking through, that God places particular things on people's hearts to just do. And they don't often know, I think, that God is actually using them. It's crazy for me. So then you had this 300, right? And then God went one step further, or not one more step further, He went plenty further. But by the time it came to do the army, God said, okay, these oaks are able to carry a sword, they are able to fight, these are warriors, these are army men, they are dressed in armor to fight, they have all the gear and all the things, they can do what needs to be done. And God says, you know what we're going to do? Because now they're 300 men, and firstly God said, no, I need to reduce the number, and that's why this happened. Because Gideon started with like 32,000. It was either 32 or 33, but I think it was 32,000 if I remember correctly. Men, and God said, no, that's too much. That's too many people that you have, Gideon. And the reason God said this is because people would have been able to say that they won the war by themselves. Now, the army that they ended up fighting with these 300 men was 120,000 men that they had to go and fight. So for 32,000, it's not impossible for them to defeat it. That's 1 to 4, if you just want to do a quick calculation of that. But then it ended up 300 against these 120,000, so it's 1 to 400, which is, I don't want to just say highly unlikely. I was about to say that, but it's actually impossible. Literally impossible. But God. But then God goes further and He says, you know what, these oaks aren't going to fight them immediately. No. God has better plans. He says, I'll tell you what to do, Gideon. You give each of them a trumpet. and they'll blow on these trumpets this way that I tell you, and then you'll shout something and you'll tell them to shout what you shout. So God didn't even tell them to fight. He said, you'll blow on trumpets and you'll shout in the middle of a war, or on the way to war, or when you're about to wage this war. This is what you'll do. And then the men blow on these trumpets and they shout as Gideon commands them, and they follow Gideon and does what he said they must do. And God does one of the most insane things, and these 120,000 men gets confused and they start fighting each other. In the end of the day, go read it. It's in the book of Judges if you want to go read the story for yourself and find out all of this. But this stuff is too, I want to say it's too crazy to make up. That is what the beauty is in it for me of God. The fact that it is silly and it sounds crazy. So the point of what I'm actually trying to say to you today is the challenges that you walk through, the stuff in your life that you're currently working through, challenging through. Some people say struggling through. I don't like saying it in a negative way because I never struggle with stuff when it comes to God. I learn and I grow because God is building something. But when you are going through these things, and this is what I want to say, while you are going through these things, you'll find moments where you think you have resources and they reduce. Or sometimes you'll even, if you sit with the Lord and you say, Lord, what next? And the Lord will give you something to do and you'll think that it's silly. But you'll do it eventually, or instantly in some cases, because obedience is better than sacrifice. God never asked us to think about what He's telling us. He asked us to do what He tells us to do. And then it works out in a great way, the step that He's doing that seems crazy. So you'll reduce your resources sometimes, because He needs to get bad resources out sometimes. But in the end of the day, the idea of the testimony, especially what He's busy doing in my life, but I believe this is the same for you. And that's why this is the message today. Where God is saying He's going to bring you to a place, into a position, He's going to let you do things, He's going to tell you to do these things, He's going to almost command you to do these things. But in the end of the day, you're going to have the victory. And the victory is going to come because it has to come from a position where people are completely unable to say that I did it by myself. The only way I can tell you the story when this testimony comes, when God is done writing this testimony, is I need to be able to come to you and tell you that it was but God. It is only because of God, it is only because of Him that I'm able to do this. That's why I was able to finish this, complete this, and get this done and dusted. That is why these challenges sometimes that we walk through, the enemy is never going to stop. And the more you work for Jesus, the closer you walk to Jesus, the more He's going to try and take you out. But that's the benefit, is that God knows the end every single time. And He does these weird and wonderful, miraculous things that brings it. Romans 8:28, He will make all things work for the good of those who love Him and those who are called according to His purpose. I hope you got this today. I hope it makes a little sense to you in some way, that you are able to just serve God and praise God in the midst of whatever storm you are currently in, whatever you are currently facing, whatever you are currently fighting, that you are able to just praise God in the middle, knowing that in the end of the day you will sit there with the word of your testimony, you will overcome. And by the blood of the power of the blood of the Lamb, you will be overcoming, because God would have made it through. And nobody will be able to say that it was not God. I hope that makes sense to you today. So I want to encourage you with that, knowing that even if you have no idea what's going on, even if everything looks a little bit on the weird and the wonderful and the crazy side or whatever is going on in your life, know that God is still in control, and ask Him, sit down with Him and ask Him, Lord, what is next? Just what is next. You don't even need to know what is happening, because God will reveal what you need to do. We just need to take a second, take a time, sit down with Him and ask Him about it. Bless you guys. Have a wonderful week. Have a beautiful day. You are blessed. You are highly favored. You are a child of the Most High King. See you soon. Shalom, shalom.